Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. Well, first of all, there's not a document attached to the webinar today, but the document that I am using, and I'm going to bring up our website here on this today where I'm getting this, and you can go get this right now if you wish, is at our website, Customer Support and Resource Center, okay? And when the Resource Center page loads, we go down here, and I'm going down to the search down here in the bottom right next to the show number of pages, and I'm typing in the word outstanding. And we notice right here the first return is accounting, review outstanding bills and vendors with a balance, version 25 and newer. If I click on that, there's the review outstanding bills and review vendors with a balance. We did go over vendors with a balance a little bit yesterday, but I'm going to be primarily focusing on this review outstanding bills document that when I click on that and I choose open file, it's a 2-page document. That's what I'm using as the guide today for today's event. Okay, we are exclusively covering outstanding bills today. All right, not going to be going over other things. We have other information out there from yesterday's event. And only because of the fact that this is a really common support question problem, whatever you decide to call it, issue, support call, one we get lots of folks asking us about. And so we do this webinar, once a year typically, along with the end of year stuff, because it is important as we are approaching now the start of the new year. All right. And so dealing with outstanding bills is something that you don't want it to linger, folks, okay? If there's, and what I'm talking about, when we go into pay bills, and right here we're still in 24 in our data, okay? Go up to quick pay, and right down here at the bottom, view outstanding bills. Hopefully everybody can see that, okay? So here, we've got a few outstanding bills here, all right? And some of you may be diligent enough to go, oh, well, I never have any outstanding bills. Well, that's great. Good for you. But I suspect those aren't the folks that are joining us here today. Is the reason why you're here is because you do maybe have some outstanding bills that you're having to deal with. And whether that's from the current year or from prior years doesn't really matter. This typically, when this list is clear, we know that any bill that's been entered has been subsequently paid or dealt with, all right? So on that document, it talks about, on the reviewing outstanding bills, the very first one is talking about outstanding bills with a zero balance. And what I'm talking about here, and let me introduce my highlighter friend here, okay? So I'm going to get that out, and what it's talking about is right here, this column called account balance, okay? Notice now we've got several in here with an account balance of zero, right here, okay? The amount due to the far right is always the amount of the bill in question, okay, or the amount of the bill that we're particularly looking at, okay? So I've got a bill from Be Sure You're Covered Insurance for $3,614.80 that was entered, or the bill was entered on January 20th of 2023. So we're talking about last year, okay? But I also have a couple here, one from my electric company, AEP, from January 15th of 24 for $543.21. And similarly, Columbia Gas, my gas company, for $789.01, also for January 15th of this year. So what's important about this, and this is why we cover this, is one, it's a very common support call for us. And two, this information of the account balance being zero really provides you, or with you or us, as the case may be, us, you, and us, collectively, with a lot of information. If that bill were not paid, that account balance would unlikely be zero. Okay, so that's why we address this first. Is we get a lot of calls. They call me and they say, Josh, I've got a bunch of bills that are sitting out here, and they've got an account balance of zero. What gives? Okay. And so the simple question, or the answer to that, typically is that at the time that the bill payment was entered that paid that bill, the little checkbox that paid the bill called Pay Now, and I'm going to go ahead and check the one for AEP here and click Create Payments, right? That little check mark over here on the far left next to my outstanding bills, hopefully, let me steer some focus again here with my pointer. All right, right here, pay now, this little check box right here was unchecked, okay? Essentially leaving that invoice as outstanding, all right? That, in a nutshell, is what we're dealing with here. All right, commonly, not always, but 99% of the time, that's what we're dealing with here. Okay, so I get a question and folks call me and say, well, how do I clear those out of there? Well, or they'll go in and they'll attempt to pay it again, and they'll pay it and they'll compound the problem. All right. So that's what that outstanding bills with zero balances is talking about in those first four steps at the very top, okay? So the ones in 2024 are really simple, all right? They're really easy because we're in that current year. I mean, the others are easy too. I mean, the other one for 23 is easy as well. I just have to change the year back to deal with it, all right? But I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So we're going to go up to transactions and browse, and we're going to go right up here to the upper left to change here, filter and sort. I'm going to let the program do the software, do the work of finding these bills for me. Okay, so right here I'm going to do clear all on the right. I'm going to, in the center, under transaction types, I'm going to check just bills. And on the very far left, directly over here to the far left, I'm going to uncheck show paid. Okay, so basically I'm saying, asking the software to display any bills in 2024 that are not marked as paid. Okay, so then I simply click OK, and here they are. So my other ones down here for the others, I'm going to come back to those for like my Christian Bible supplies and my city florist, but the two that we're dealing with here from 24 are these two on January 15th for Columbia Gas and AEP. And the problem is as easy to solve as this. Click on one line of the bill, doesn't matter which one, click correct. It opens up the correct bill transaction page. It's January 15th for 543.21. It says the bill has not been marked as paid. Well, the account balance tells me differently, okay? So I'm going to click mark as paid. So here it opens up all of the payments that I've posted to AEP historically. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to find for the one dated probably January 15th and 24. There it is. Same amount. It was paid electronically. I choose that. I click OK. I click Save Corrections. It says then your corrections have been saved. It now removes that bill from this list because it no longer meets my criteria of an unpaid bill. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing again to repeat it so you can see it again with my Columbia Gas bill on January 15th. Highlight one line of it. It doesn't matter which one. Click Correct. Says the bill has not been marked as paid. Again, the balance of the vendor account tells me differently. I click Mark as paid. I make a note of the date of the bill and the amount, and typically you're going to be able to match those up. Sometimes you might not be able to, but it doesn't mean you can't. You can choose any technically payment in this list. They don't directly relate or correspond with one another, but there it is, January 15th to 24 for 789.01. Click on that, click OK, and then click Save, and again it removes it from the list of bills, outstanding bills, because it's no longer an outstanding bill. Now when I go back to my pay bills, quick pay, and view outstanding bills, those two are gone. All right, it is that simple. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, what about the one from 2023, Josh? Can I do that in 2023? Well, sure I can, assuming the year is not closed. All right, so if I haven't closed the year, I can absolutely go back into 2023 and mark that bill as paid. But some of you may be also asking yourself the question, well, am I doing anything to change my account balances here? The answer to that simply, folks, is no. When I tie the bill back to a payment, I am in no way affecting any account balances of any kind. All right, so there's no beginning balances I have to update, none of that. All right. But I do have to go back into the software and change my year back to 2023. I cannot correct it while I'm in 24. So I'm going to go up to Special Functions, Manage Years, change to another existing accounting year, go back to 23. Similarly, I'm going to go up to Transaction. Now that I'm in 23 here in the middle, I'm going to go back up to Transactions and Browse, doing the same thing I did before. Under change year, filter, insert, clear all, checking just bills, unchecking show paid, and clicking OK, and there it is. My one bill from 2023 that's still showing up as outstanding. Sure makes it a lot easier to let the software do that work to find it for me for sure. So I'm going to click correct again. Mark is paid. It says it's not been, but the balance says differently. Mark is paid. Find my bill. Sorry, I didn't follow my own advice. January 20th of 23. Click mark as paid. January 20th of 23 right there for the same amount. And I simply highlight that, click OK, and save corrections. Again, corrections have been saved and it disappears because it's no longer an outstanding bill. Okay, so that is the first kind of top part of that. Okay, so it talks about in the current year, and it says then on number 2, it says if there are outstanding bills from a vendor that will have a new bill in the current year, wait until you get to another bill for that vendor and then choose any and all outstanding bills and edit the amount to pay. I'm going to cover that here in just a minute, but it doesn't really, it is more dealing with one that may or may not have an account balance of 0, but I'm going to tie it back to one of my other ones that I've got out here. Outstanding bills in the prior year, that's what I've just done, okay? All right. And now if the outstanding bills are from a prior year, number 4 there, and the year is closed, that's where things get to be a little bit tricky, okay? That details going in and posting a dummy payment and fake payment it talks about, and then having to go back in and post another journal entry that adds the amount back into your bank rec because you're going to be posting that. I would follow those instructions, folks, on number 4 if the year was closed and I was no longer doing business with the vendor. All right. And when I come back into 24, I'm going to show you another way we can, assuming that you're doing business with the vendor. There's another way you can do that as well. And it's going to kind of tie back to that one as well. So while I'm back in 24, I go back up to pay bills, quick pay, and view outstanding bills again. And what I'm kind of talking about here is this one for City Florist. That's kind of tying back to this one here. Okay, we do have an account balance here, and we also have an amount due. All right, but what that's about is I do have an actual outstanding bill that I entered on November 11th for my City Florist for $32.10. Okay, I know I haven't paid that bill. All right. But what about the one from November 21st of 2014? All right. That really now I can check and see if I can go back to 2014 and mark that as paid, right? Because the current balance kind of confirms at that point of 3210 that really that we're just dealing with a bill from an outstanding year that's 0. And when I look down here under my view financial year information, right, it shows 2014 is in fact closed, okay? I cannot go back into 2014 and mark that bill as paid, okay? I cannot open that year no matter what I do, okay? So clearly I am still doing business with that vendor, right? So when I go back in to pay bills, and I go to quick pay, and I go to view outstanding bills, all right, I've got a $234.56 payment, a bill that's outstanding from 2014, which is a closed year. All right, so what do I do to deal with that in 2024? Simple. Don't overthink it. Okay, I would click on both of them, both the one from 2014 and 24. My current amount due is $32.10. All right, so I'm going to check both of those. I'm going to click Create Payments. Okay, so again, just so you see what we're dealing with here is the amount that it wants to post in my payment is $266.66, right? Which is the amount of both of those bills combined. But I don't want to pay my City Florist that $266.66. I only want to pay them the $32.10 that I actually physically owe them at this point. All right. So all I need, I'm going to check both of those pay now boxes to clear the invoice from 2014 and from 24. And all I'm going to do is click where it says amount to pay right here. And I'm just going to change that amount to $32.10. I'm effectively saying I want to clear an old outstanding invoice on a current payment. All right. That's the simplest way I can put it for you. Okay. Is I'm just clearing the old 2014 invoice on my payment dated November 21st of 2024. And if I even want to backdate the payment back to November 11th, I can do that if I wish. All right. So if I go here and I click the down arrow and I backdate it to 2011, to November 11th, come on, Josh, there it is, November 11th, either one, either way under default or date occurred, under the individual date occurred. I then choose my payment method for how I'm paying them. And again, I want to just show you by using the show running balance button here in the upper right-hand corner is notice now City Florist is having an adjusted balance of 0. Okay, that is the goal. I don't want to create a balance under City Florist. I don't owe them anything for either 2014 or in November of 20, other than 3210 in November of 24. Okay, so that's doing exactly what I want it to do. So I'm now going to post this transaction. I'm not going to print it. But now when I go back up to Quick Pay and view outstanding bills, I now only have the 2 remaining bills that I have outstanding. Those 2, the one from 2014 and the one from 2024, are both now gone, and effectively essentially my balance in my City Florist account is 0, which is exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so that's what that was kind of talking about up there on the one that's talking about outstanding from a prior year where the year is closed, editing the amount to pay. Yeah, if I'm not doing business with the vendor any longer, I would come in here and I would enter a dummy payment for a penny, dime, or a dollar simply to clear that invoice from the prior closed year, and then post my journal entry adding that amount, that penny, dime, or dollar, back on my bank reconciliation and getting my vendor back to 0 and clearing them both on the deposit and the withdrawal on my bank reconciliation. Doesn't negatively impact that as long as I clear the offsetting deposit and withdrawals at the same time. But hopefully that's going to be a very rare situation for you. Folks, I went back into 2014 today, made that outstanding bill and closed the year. And the software even went so far as to warn me that I had an outstanding bill in that was not paid or not marked as paid or was outstanding before I closed the year. Okay. So when you get those messages, please pay attention to those. They're there for a reason. Okay. So just an FYI, just be aware that when you attempt to close a year, don't close the year with any outstanding bills. Unless there's a reason why you need to do that, don't close the year without it. In fact, I think our developers are writing something into 26 where it's not even going to permit you to close it if it has a 0 balance. Now, it doesn't mean you can't, okay, folks go, okay, well, what if I do legitimately have a bill that I enter in in December of one year and I don't want to pay it until January of the next year? Fine. But then the software is not going to permit you to close it until that outstanding bill is dealt with. And that's just good accounting and bookkeeping, okay? So we're trying to protect you. I believe that's coming in version 26. All right, folks. So a couple more things. On their outstanding bills with an account balance, we got about 10 minutes, so I'm going to kind of have to go through this fairly quickly here, okay, is we've got both of these bills from 2024, one from July and one from September, that have an account balance and an amount due, okay? In one case, the amount due and the account balance are the same. In the other one is they have an amount due and an account balance that are different, okay? And in one case, they're negative. Folks, this is a forensic bookkeeping, and what we're kind of talking about here is everything that's listed on the second page there under section B there of reviewing the report, review the account balances to go in and look and see why these vendors or payees have these balances here, okay, and find out what's up. Is it like in this case, is it a bill without entering a payment? That would certainly account for why we have Clark's Organ Repair up here, as it has an account balance of 1098.76 under both account balance and amount due. It also could be as a result of a duplicate bill, right? I got 2 bills entered in one payment. It's going to leave 1 bill outstanding. That could explain that. Or I could have, but until I go look at it, I don't know. Conversely, why does Christian Bible Supplies have an account balance of negative 691.34 and yet an amount due of 345.67? I have to go in and look at these to determine that. It says a duplicate posting of the bill and or payment could explain an outstanding bill. Posting a part of a transaction to a wrong vendor. You've chosen a wrong account. Okay. Original bill and payment posted correctly, but one part of the transaction was reversed. Folks, there are so many reasons why we could have bills that are showing up outstanding here that there is no just cookie cutter answer as to go in and find out. You've got to go in and look at things and find out what they are. Transferred money between two vendor accounts. Okay. Now what that's talking about is not only outstanding bills, but maybe vendors with a balance as well. And a bill was posted as a credit memo by mistake. Well, I've got both of these vendors here, and I can go in and look at both of them to try to find out what's going on. And the date occurred of these transactions is also going to be awfully helpful as well. All right? So Clark Organ Repair and Christian Bible Supplies. We're going to go out and we're going to forensically look into those. How I start that is I go into Manage Accounts and into my chart of accounts, and I'm going to, because again, they both clearly occurred in 2024. So I'm going to find Clark's Organ Repair. There it is. Okay, I've chosen the vendor. Okay, and he said down here under Accounts Payable, where is it? Clark's Organ Repair. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? On the left. Just trying to. Yeah, so it's highlighted here. Clark's Organ Repair. I don't know why that was hidden behind there. I'm going to the Balance tab, and sure enough, right here, it started in July. So that tells me I've got to investigate what happened in July's activity to find out what's going on. I can do that in one of two ways. I can go into Browse and look at it, or I can go into, like on my Detail tab, go to Print and print my General Ledger. Got Clark's Organ Repair selected. I know the month is July. I'm going to choose July 2024. I'm going to check running balances only, not wanting to look at reverse transactions or accounts with no activity, and click Print. Okay. Now when it brings up the General Ledger report, it clearly shows that I have just a bill and no payment. Okay, so that tells me exactly what happened. I recorded the bill, I didn't record the payment. The balance is the same 1098 and change all the way through the end of the year. So now what that tells me is I can go safely now, assuming I paid them, I can now go back into Pay Bills, Quick Pay, and view outstanding bills, and I can post a payment backdating that. If I review my records and determine that I actually paid Clark's Organ Repair for that in July, I can record a payment, and if I even wrote them a check, I can put in like manual check. I don't have to print something new, okay? And then I can even backdate that into July 07/15 and post that, making sure the Pay Now box is checked and post. Okay, yeah, it's just warning me about not associated to the asset account. It's a different warning, folks, sorry. So it's now printing that, and now when I go back up to Quick Pay and view outstanding bills, that other one is gone. With a couple minutes left, folks, let's look at Christian Bible Supplies. Similar type problem, okay? So I now go back into my chart of accounts, and I'm looking up Christian Bible Supplies, go to Balance. It clearly occurred in September, the month that bill is outstanding for, but why is it negative? Interesting. All right. So I could go back to the Detail tab and print the General Ledger, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go up to Transactions and Browse, not the chart of accounts, Josh, Transactions and Browse, right up to Change Year, Filter and Sort. Under Account, I'm going to find Christian Bible Supplies. Date occurred, I'm going to put in September 1 through September 30th. That's the month where it occurred. Okay, and I'm going to look at all transactions and I'm going to click OK. Well, what do you know? I've got a bill and a payment. But what is showing up here that's odd, and odd behavior here, is I have both the bill and the payment amounts showing up in the debit amount column. So what gives about that? All right, the payment will normally debit the vendor, but the bill sure doesn't. Okay, so that's a little curious. So let's click on that bill and let's correct that, because the bill normally is the credit amount to the vendor, not the debit. So when we click on that and click correct, and I look at this bill, what do you know? Sure enough, right here in the middle, the little checkbox next to credit memo, next to the amount, is checked, rendering that bill negative or a credit to the vendor or a debit to the vendor, not a credit. So therein lies my problem. All right. So all I have to do on that is uncheck credit memo and click Save Corrections. Now I'm not quite done yet, because all that does is leave now a positive bill is outstanding. He said, waiting, it says your corrections required to be reversed and re-entered, but now my debits and credits are inverted or correctly positioned, but it's still not marked as paid. So I've still got to correct that and mark that as paid. Okay, highlight the bill, click correct, click mark as paid, click mark as paid, he said, waiting now. So there it is. There's my September 16th, first 345.67. Highlight that, click OK, save corrections, and then click OK when it says the corrections have been saved. And now my debits and credits make sense here for Christian Bible Supplies. And when I go back to pay bills and quick pay and view outstanding bills, my list is now clear. Yay. All right, folks, those are just a few things that we've gone through that we can go through that can help show you why you may have some outstanding bills. But you ultimately have to do the work, okay? The data will tell you if you let it. I've been doing this, folks, for 22 years plus. And I tell folks, and I still say it, I said it when I first started here, and I say it to this day, is the data doesn't lie. It tells you exactly what's going on. And if it is, it's a problem we need to fix, okay, in the code or the programming, or there's a problem in the data. Then I can get involved. But these are simple, easy bookkeeping and accounting issues that anyone here that's joining us today can resolve for yourself if you let the data tell you, okay? So with about a minute to go, that is where I'm going to leave our topic for today.